So Montessori for community. I have had the privilege to, for many years, be part of a smaller Montessori community. First the 3 to 6, then the 6 to 12, and then the adolescents. But I also had the privilege to be part of a larger community that makes it possible for me to be here today and talk about this topic. And when I do this, I am very well aware of the fact that what I have experienced and what I will say has been a gift to me by these communities. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be part of the Montessori community, because it offers an extra dimension to one's life. And as such, it's also an opportunity to refine oneself as a pedagogue, but also as a human being. And for this, I owe these communities, the children, the adolescents, all the students that I met in training, all my colleagues. I owe them a lot to be thankful for. This aspect, community, which is a hallmark of Montessori, offers children and adolescents so many layers of what it means to be human, to participate in life, and it provides thus opportunities to become a fully functioning, independent adult. Though sometimes I think that we are so busy with preparing our environments, giving presentations, and making sure that all is there for the children, that we are so busy that we forget why we are doing what we are doing. We get caught up, I think, sometimes in these short-term goals. Children need good grades to go on in life. And we forget our long-term goals, and that they are the long-term goals that actually define us. And I think we need to ask ourselves, to what end more often? And I think this is where we need to start in order to have direction in our work. And Montessori, she reminds us, if we wish to bring to the children knowledge of the real and material world, nothing can be more significant and accurate than the image of the tree that is human solidarity, rooted in the distant past and extending its branches towards eternity, while we live in the infinitesimal second allotted to life. So we are aiming for human solidarity, which means that we need to educate in the context in and for human solidarity. And this happens through the approach we take in the context for community. A context which is important for the young adults as they move on in life, continuing in their search for knowledge, hoping to acquire higher learning, getting to know their true value, and becoming aware of moral and social responsibilities as the very essence of human life, and that these responsibilities are attached to their lives. And this is how we can envision a fully functioning, independent adult. And we don't really need to be trained Montessorians to prepare an environment of love and service. We do not need money. We don't need possessions of any kind. There is no magic needed, because the resources we have within us. And one of the most important resources is our will to do something. And we can start by recognizing, or the need that we need to start is to recognize it's the humanity we share with all other human beings on this earth. And this is what children and adolescents will experience in a Montessori environment. One of philosophy's great endeavors is to understand reality. The other is to understand value, especially moral value. And what are the best kinds of life for individuals? And which social arrangements would best allow individuals to construct such lives for themselves? How can we assist in this? And what I'm going to tell you is not a description of the third plane of development as such. It's not about what adolescents maybe will do in their everyday life, but it is a reflection and my experiences of a Montessori adolescent community that I would like to share with you. How can our approach promote reflection on ethical implications, for instance? Because reflection is necessary. It is needed to help recognize and appreciate others, and also appreciate and recognize other points of view, to show why it is important to approach others with respect, to think about the consequences of one's own choices and actions, and to gain insight in the great possibilities that exist when people live in sympathy and tolerance. The world is not only materials, it is people and their lives. It is society. It is civilization that has built up through the ages. Civilization that started when a group of individual human beings realized that life would be lived more easily through cooperation. Cooperation led to looking for the good of society, for consideration of the others in the group. Human beings can thrive only in community. For many children and adolescents today, the Montessori environments they go to provide a sanctuary in today's world, where so many things are no longer stable and there is no continuity when it comes to relationships. There are too many distractions, too many interruptions, and no need to stay with someone or something. Loyalty, to be with, to be faithful is rare, unless it's to something commercial. You can be loyal to an airline, a grocery store, or a hotel chain, and so forth. But to experience loyalty is important for children and adolescents. Someone's loyalty gives them strength and hope. And to have the opportunity to be loyal is to have the capacity to last and be there even in difficult and uncomfortable moments. And this is what adolescents get to experience. To experience relationship with others, to recognize the possibility that others can teach them something, makes them aware that everyone is an opportunity. Everyone has something interesting to share. Everyone is worth listening to. To see good in others. To become aware that they, the adolescents, are not the only ones. To demand something of themselves. This is an understanding and acceptance that makes us fully human. And these are experiences offered in a Montessori environment. Montessori understood and proclaimed that if we want to create societies where the hallmark is solidarity, then we must allow for the children and adolescents to experience this. And passing through the different Montessori environments, which provides layer after layer when it comes to work and independence, support the development of the individual, providing the adolescents, the children and adolescents, with not only a strong foundation for life, but also a strong and well-functioning personality and character. Life is given to us without prescription, and we have the freedom to act, to say yes or no, to decide what I would like to do or what I would not like to do. And at the same time, we must be aware of the fact that we are making a decision because we are choosing this rather than that. And to be aware is the opposite of just going along. No one can be free on someone else's behalf. No one can make the decisions that are for us to make. It is about creating a life that one would like to live as this fully functioning, independent adult, not to prepare to live a life that someone else has shaped for us. And this is what the adolescents will get to experience. But to have the freedom to try is not the same as success. But to be able to choose and act, increase our opportunities to achieve what we are striving towards, both as individuals and as a community. To learn how to make good choices when it comes to choices that matter, and not pay too much attention to these choices that are of less importance. This requires freedom and discipline, as well as responsibility for oneself, one's own learning, knowledge and understanding, as well as a responsibility for others. And these are experiences we offer in a Montessori environment. And one important question to ask oneself is how one is best to live. And there are so many aspects to this question. And one is, how can one make one's life meaningful for oneself and others? Another question is, how can one make experiences valuable and keep growing and learning as one does so? And while doing this, having the opportunity to attain a degree of understanding of oneself and the world. And answers to these questions are what we offer in our prepared environments. Aspects of the world and people in it. Aspects of life, but done differently at different stages of development. You have heard about childhood, understanding that the child is a hope and promise for mankind. And this is something we need to be aware of every morning when we greet the children or the adolescents as they come to our environments. In Sweden, working with the younger children, it's done by a handshake. A handshake that allows me to stop for a moment, to stay with the child, and to look that child in the eye, call them by their name, and get a sense of how they are doing today. A smiling face makes all of the difference to all of us. With adolescents, when it's residential, it's different. We meet every morning, and still everyone has to be acknowledged. And we are all smiling. Kindness is essential at all levels of education, because we learn more in an atmosphere of warmth and attention than in an atmosphere of indifference and repression. Children need to grow in a healthy way, and kindness is urgent in relationships with our living environment. And to be welcomed and acknowledged gives children and adolescents a sense of belonging. And this sense of belonging is a need because it gives you an identity. It acknowledges that you are a part of this special community. Children and adolescents can enter into an environment which provides the freedom to have the opportunity to develop as nature has intended. An environment that allows them to become me, to be what they want to be what they aspire towards, to meet adults that allow them to think with their own head. An environment that offers a possibility for a life well lived rather than a life well taught. An environment that is congruent with life. And Dr. Montessori, she had it all figured out. She understood the needs of every age and the importance of providing a social context that would offer all that is necessary for development and independence. And for adolescents, she was so spot on, understanding that their developmental task is to participate in the workings of society, doing adult work. And in order for them to do this, they need to understand society, which means they have to practice society. And the environment that she so brilliantly then proposed for the adolescents was a center for study and work, where the materials would be the land, the farm, the shop, the guest house, and the museum of machinery, all in the country, all with closeness to nature, in order for the adolescents to experience a relationship with nature, a relationship that is so important for our future. All of this would then provide the work and study that would prepare them for adult life and help them being a contributing member of the unprepared environment, society in which they are to enter. One important aspect of the environment is work that is being offered. And for adolescents, it has to be real adult work. The child enters adolescence having created their potential, and now they need to realize it. However, it is not always clear to them what work is good for them. And as adults, we have a responsibility to make sure that the work is developmental, that the work matches the psychological strength of the child or the adolescent, work that is psychologically right for them. And because of the vision Montessori had in mind for humankind, she did not just see an educational problem, but she saw also a human and social one. And the education she had in mind was social education. And she was convinced that we could not let society stay unchanged. But in order to make changes, it requires work from us, good work and great work. And that is the work that Montessori environment offers. Work that shapes who we are. And Dr. Montessori's granddaughter, Renilde Montessori, she wrote, "The capability to work for the common good, the ability to carry responsibility are essential faculties best acquired at an early age if the child is to grow into a worthy adult, for they will be woven into the fabric of the personality and not perceived as punitive impositions or arbitrary injustice later in life." Moral and social development is at the heart of humanity, and the purposeful work we offer is moral training for the adolescent. It is work that requires maximum effort, and they come to realize through their positive experience in the environment that some things are good for them. There are also opportunities for good work habits, for work ethic to develop, something very essential for life. And if children and adolescents experience the value of work, it will be an appreciation that will stay with them for life. And we want for them to become lifelong learners and not narrow education down to focus mainly on how to be able to participate in the life of the economy. Instead, hopefully, they will have developed a healthy attitude to what Montessori says, towards power, possession, and an easy life. And work in the social setting offered gives them a moral compass. Through experience, the adolescents come to see that there is a purpose with every job. There are no menial jobs. There are only menial attitudes. To work with and for others can be a sacrifice, in the sense of putting others before me. But having freedom does not come for free. It comes with responsibility. To be responsible and put others before you when required. To be of service is an opportunity for making another human being feel better. It's not a sacrifice, even though it might take time and energy, but we do not attach a price to it. It is not what you do, but what you are. And human works best when they work for human good. And this is the experiences we offer in our Montessori environments. The social environment must not be underestimated. It must be taken seriously. The adolescents need to practice all the different aspects of community and what makes it function in harmony and respect. How do we communicate ourselves to others? In order for this to work in a positive way, one must take the other person seriously and understand that even although there are differences between us, we share what is human. So therefore, one needs to take the other person's rights into account, to try to understand that person's reasoning, to see the uniqueness of that person, and try to understand what is expected from us. To treat people differently because they might not be so efficient as others can never be defended. Justice is not equality, but equity. Problems are considered, arguments on all sides are heard and weighed. Being part of a community, the adolescents have opportunities to resolve problems necessary to act competently and efficiently in today's world. Tolerance and reason will help maintain a harmonious equilibrium. For the adolescents, the qualities of the social organization of the community entail so many aspects. The understanding of being part of a community and its expectations are not taken lightly. It becomes clear that everything you do to others, you also do to yourself. They need to acknowledge others as equal human beings. To get oneself a good life is not as important as offering someone else a good life. We cannot choose a lifestyle that causes a disadvantage for someone else. We do not sacrifice our social relations because of our choices. A civilized community and society is one that never ceases to discuss what human life should best be. We all want to be treated as human beings, not just like a biological organism. Being part of a community imposes duties, as do citizenship. With community comes a code of civility, a code of conduct. There is an expectation to act honestly, and sometimes it needs to be done with diplomacy and tact. But it is important because it is to recognize a problem rather than pretend there is none. It helps adolescents to stay authentic, and it is a conquest. Another aspect of social organization is trust. To place trust in someone is like giving a gift. Trust is an essential aspect. And, you know, it is for us as well, when we do our work. We need to have trust in children. We need to have trust in adolescents. We need to have trust in Montessori and also in ourselves. Trust that we can do it. Trust for adolescents states a relationship which is very important to adolescents. A relationship which can be vulnerable if the trust is betrayed. To live, study, and work together as the adolescents do requires empathy. It is a prerequisite for collaboration, communication, and social cohesion. It is an expansion of one's awareness to be able to resonate with others. Imagination enables us to empathize with humans whose experiences we have never shared. Compassion, which is a word that means to suffer with, is a fine and precious result of empathy. And it brings us out of our selfishness. It makes us open to others, and it unites us with others. Being part of a community asks adolescents to be attentive to the present. To be in the present, the gift of attention, to be there, to be available without judgment or advice is a good quality. It also makes the world more interesting, and it allows for flexibility in a changing world. To be flexible and adaptable implies freedom from attachment. It saves us from frustration and makes us open to new experiences. And it also makes us a person to be easy to be with. And these are experiences offered in the Montessori community. Growing up and looking forward to adulthood does not mean that we should let time pass, but that we should live with it and do the best we can. We always have a responsibility for the creative ways we choose, making sure that the choices and actions truly correspond to what we had in mind. And we must stop looking for apologies which hide the freedom we have and the responsibility that goes with it. We need to be responsible or realize that we are responsible for the consequences of our actions. One's actions have effects. Consequences are the serious effects of freedom. And as the adolescents practice society, they become aware of what is realistic in their freedom. To be independent and to be able to make decisions based on knowledge and understanding, realizing that every action also acts upon them and thus defines them. Their decisions change them a bit each and every time. The opportunity the adolescents have to be a contributing member of community in their Montessori environment not only shapes their social awareness, but it also creates an individual that wants to participate in society and work for the common good. And the Greek philosopher Plutarch, he said, "What we achieve inwardly will change outer reality. Words do not matter, deeds do." And the warmth or fire we heard about, we have inside, will be enough to warm others. What we accomplish can make things possible for others. It starts with us. The children need to grow, and the adolescents need to grow too, in an environment where they get to understand that it does matter how we live our lives. They need to become confident being part of social life and be comfortable with whom they are. And if you are comfortable with whom you are and where you are, there is no need for you to take somebody else's place. Because the times we live in, all of us, young and adult, do not spend enough time and effort, I think, thinking about the meaning of life. We do not look inside ourselves or around us to ask the deepest and broadest questions: how to best live our lives. And there is a Finnish philosopher, Frank Martella. He wrote, "A good life consists of more than just wanting to be happy. We want to live well according to our morals, and we want to feel that our life is valuable. A balanced combination of self-expression and the ability to support others produces both well-being and meaningfulness." And he says that happiness happens when you do meaningful things. And I would like to share with you an essay that probably some of you heard already, but repetition is good and you get to hear it again. It's what a student, an adolescent, wrote. She wrote about teamwork, and the title was How Important is Teamwork? And this is what she wrote. I learned about teamwork when I was in 6th grade at the farm. I was 12 and a half. I was in the study and work about cows with some of my friends, and our practical work was to renovate the barn so that it would be ready for the cows to come. The barn was in bad condition, and we had to knock down the inside walls and tear up the floor. To do that, we had to hammer very large pieces of stone and chisel really tough little pieces. Eventually, we had to make the inside of the barn just as we had on our plan. That meant making cement for the new floor, fixing walls, and ever so much more. Sometimes we worked for 3 hours each day, sometimes for 6. It was very, very hard work. Having to sit down for 6 hours chiseling a tiny piece of stone until it broke so you could pull it up was difficult. I got very tired and I got lots of blisters on my hands. And sometimes we got very hungry and thirsty because we were using lots of energy and it was very dusty. However, I managed to do all this work because I was in a team with my friends. We would talk, laugh, sing and joke with each other. When it was especially hard, we would think about all the really hard work and difficult situations which people all over the world and through all history have had to do, and that helped us to remember how lucky we are in our lives, with choices to make about how and where we live. Sometimes we talked very seriously and even about things we would not share with anyone else because they had not shared in our hard time together. Without my team of friends, I could never have managed. We went out in our winter clothes because our work started in October and lasted all through the winter. There was snow and ice which stayed for a very long time. But after about 20 minutes of working in the barn, we would be sweating and just have to work in our t-shirts. I wonder what it must be like for people who have to work like building roads and railways in very cold and very hot conditions. Sometimes I felt I just could not carry on. Then I would look at my friends and tell myself to just keep going. This was our farm, and we so much wanted to have the cows. It was funny, really, because even when we felt that we could absolutely do no more, we did not want anyone else to take over. It was like making friends with the work. I can explain it like this. When you have a long struggle with a stone and you are near the end, you don't want anyone else to get involved in the relationship with the stone because it just feels so good when you defeat it and finish. So even when I was exhausted, I had to carry on for my friends. I could not leave them. I also wanted to make Lennart, that's the adult, happy. I knew he would be so proud if we could do a good job. He really trusted us to do this work, and we could not let him down. At the end of the day, my back would be broken with bending over, but then Lennart would come and we would ask him the time. It was such a relief when he would say we had 10 minutes to fika, that's a snack, and that we need to pack up. For our team, it was such a wonderful feeling, and all the pain and struggles would go away. It was just the best feeling ever. I could feel my body let go, and I would not be able to stop my face from smiling. Lennart would tease me about always smiling, but it came from deep down within me, and I could not help it. Maybe that is what being happy is. Some people seek for happiness everywhere in the world, but I found mine with my team in the barn renovation. The work took right up to May to complete. We were finishing the outside painting the night before our family day. There were only 4 of us, but we were so proud. And it felt good to know that Lennart was proud. I was good at making cement, and he never praised me, but I know from his smile that he was pleased. I was 13 when we finished the work. It is something that I shall never forget. Now I am 15, and I'm still really good friends with the same people. Maybe that is because we experience so much together. Because of this team, I grew very strong, and I know now that I'm a better student because of the work on the barn. And I can never thank Lennart enough for trusting and appreciating me. So happiness happens when you do meaningful things. And when people feel valued, they become more engaged, which improves productivity, Martella says, and leads to more personal fulfillment. Sometimes we ask what life can offer us. Maybe we should ask what life asks of us. As human beings, we are powerful. And where is this power taking us? How do we move in a direction towards human solidarity and social and moral responsibility? How do we support students to enter the unprepared environment, society, with a sense of these responsibilities? Dr. Montessori felt it useless to invite men to unity through merely working for each other, since men are already working for each other, whether they realize it or not, she says. She instead stressed that we must change radically in the way we look at human relations. And she says that we must be, quote, endeavoring to influence men's consciousness by giving them new ideals, fighting indifference and incomprehension, to awaken in man's spirit a sense of gratitude towards other men. This should also be done with children. In fact, these endeavors should begin with the children, giving them the opportunity to reflect on the social value of work, on the beauty of labor carried out by the others, whereby the common effort enriches the life of all. Everyone has his or her own work to carry out, and in this, he or she, none of us, cannot be replaced, nor can these moments in life be repeated. Each situation in life represents a challenge that needs to be responded to in a responsible way. And Dr. Montessori means that this is in the hands of the schools and the educators. And she tells us our task as educators is to ensure that an intense consciousness of universal solidarity will flourish within our children. And educating the children towards solidarity is not done through preaching. It's really not done through educating either, but through bringing out these things that are hidden away, but are there, and these things which unites us, showing how interdependent we are and how our present depend on the past. And we know about history because we all need to be rooted in history. And history provides a means to do this. It makes us aware that we can evolve and that it is a cultural evolution directed by the intelligence and love of mankind. So it is a question of work, but from a different point of view. It is about good work. It is about great work. And in order for the adolescents to see where they are and find their way into future, they need the whole perspective of the long way human beings have gone. They need to experience this personally. And that the very basis of man's life is work. And they have shown us that work, the right kind of work, is vitally connected with the unfoldment of a new personality. If there is to be young men and women with a social responsibility attached to their lives, it will depend on their personal attitude towards work. And only man who has transformed himself will be capable of forming a different society. A society where work will be the foundation for life. We must offer the adolescents possibility for personality to develop as a real asset in human society. So these are the experiences and reflections offered when we are supporting and educating for community, for solidarity in a Montessori environment. This is Montessori for community, for solidarity, when we all bear in mind that there is no succeeding unless we all succeed. Thank you very much.